is, do you need money for women to love and respect you? This came with a link. Let me tee it up and I'll share it with you. It seems to be taking us to YouTube to a
It's a
show.
yes. Next question.
It's a yes. I wonder why Oni is so quick to. Oh crap! Hold on a sec. I just messed up. I wonder why Oni is so quick to speak up here. Let me share the screen, and then we'll listen and talk about it.
You love me yet? I just want to have enough money so that women can like me for my personality. You love me yet? I just want to have enough money so that women can like me for my personality. You love me yet? I just want.
Hold on a second. I got like my familiar.
Boy. So that's a short from yours. Truly.
Who put that up? Me?
From Oni, truly. Well, I guess let's go to Oni. Oni, what say you, man? Do you need money for women to love and respect you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you heard the handsome dude. He'll say, "Look at all that money I got." Anyway, oh man, you know how much my DMs blew up after that? No, I'm just listening. Those are fake bills, by the way. Everybody know that. There was a song. There was this guy, a comedian, who said he just wants women to love. No, he said, "I just want to make enough money for women to love me for my personality." And it's like, yeah, I mean, that's just kind of random, man. I did not expect me to be the freaking prop. But do you need money for women to love and respect you? Is this a direct question? Like, I feel like someone just wanted to ask me. Like I thought before it was the you, as in like, does a man need a woman? But now I just feel like it's just me. Like it's just a you. Anyway, yeah. I mean, look, I think realistically, and I'm coming to terms with this. Realistically, wealth is the most important thing, like second to health. You know what I mean? Health is important, then wealth, in your life, and partly why you like wealth is probably to improve your health. But realistically, people are going through life struggling. A lot of people are going through life struggling. If they're not going through life struggling, they already have money, right? But if they don't already have money, like the world is cruel, and if you're a man in particular, right, you have to mitigate the cruelties on a woman of your choice, a beautiful woman of your choice. It's kind of like that video we saw, I don't know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago, where the dudes was like, okay, you're on an island left to die, right, but you're cute, so I'm gonna take you off the island. You know what I mean? That's real life. Real life that's how it is for men, and that's how it is for women, right? But we as men have this responsibility that when we see a woman who's going to be left out to die, I don't know if you guys saw that video of the little girl, 18, adopted, right? Adopted when she was 4. As soon as she turned 18, for her 18th birthday, her parents dropped her off in Atlanta, like a whole other city, to a homeless shelter. And then the girl went missing. You know what I mean? And people are like, yo, she's now with a 40-year-old man. I mean, maybe, but the reality is that the world is not nice to people. And so when you see a woman that you want to provide for, that's what you go for, And if you decide, look, no, actually, you know what? I'm going to keep my money in my pocket. I'm just going, I'm just going to hit and quit. I'm going to wine and dine. I'm going to, smash and dash. That's fine too. But she's still going to be, she's still going to be on the streets or whatever. Because the world, particularly to us as Black people, the world is cruel, and that's all I could say about that.
I appreciate that, Owen. I couldn't find the mute button for a second. I appreciate that. Yeah, I do agree that the world is cruel. And especially especially as black folks. I don't personally think it, to me, it's a tough question. I don't think it's supposed to be this 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 must have thing, like you must have this wealth to get women. Uh, but the reality of it is, especially in today's world, a lot of this relationship shit is just transactional, man. That's just what it is. And like Oni says, it's a rough world. Some people have it harder than others, and some people, particularly women, I think, they say, they do what they got to do to survive. And so that brings in the hypergamy and all that kind of thing, right? But I think it's something we really do need to tackle. And I know on this shoot the breeze we've talked about it in several different ways. I know Buana has made the point of maybe polygamy is a thing that you might have to indulge in if you're a woman out here who's struggling, but there's a man uh, who can protect you, provide for you, but he has a wife or whatever. Maybe that's something you have to consider. These are things we really do need to sit down and think about. Uh, with that said, I see Gas is out there, Trigger Happy is out there. He says wealth should also be extended. Peace, children, family, finance, knowledge, etc. are also wealth, which all goes back to the community at the end of the day. Gas says hypergamy is a Mzungu programming system. With that said, Buana, what say you to this?
Coco, I don't necessarily think that love have a price tag. Because you see a lot of broke ass niggas out there, and wealthy women chasing after some broke dudes, and they claim to love them. So I don't necessarily think love have a price tag. I don't think respect have a price tag, because in many places in the world, you see poor women and poor men being together, and there's a modicum of respect in terms of relationship wise. But I do think yeah, I do think there's a price tag on vagina. I mean, if you want to get uh, if you want to get consistent what we consider to be in the Bahamas leg, you gonna have to shell out some money, man. And it's not to sound like it's almost like a transactional thing, but some women, not all, some women want to feel like they being taken care of and provided for, and it's like an exchange. It's like a reciprocal thing. You know, you get the obligation of providing me security. I get the privilege of so forth and so forth and so forth. So the security is I can do this for you, I can do that for you. I never really have to do it on the basis of love or respect. It's just if you want give me if you want task me with this obligation, I should have the privilege of what comes with having the obligation, the burden of the obligation. So I just think that that's how I kind of look at it. And that price of vagina is going up every day, by the way. But I personally, if you want to get, something like that every weekend, if you need to get that every weekend. But I personally think that in terms of money, I think that I look at in I reference the obligation and privilege. I counterbalance them kind of two things in the equation. But in terms of love and respect, I don't necessarily think these things have a price tag. So I could be wrong, but I don't believe that, because I've seen so many instances where money, you see a lot of broke dudes or people who lack financial money stress, but they seem to be able to find loving relationships, or what people from the outside looking in will consider to be loving relationships, or relationships based out of respect. But that's my spiel on that.
Yeah, Buana, I'll just like to add that yeah, they don't you know it does, it's not mandatory, but the way that the world's shaped and shaping up to be, more and more these things are becoming more and more transactional. That's just what it is. And Yana B in the chat said there's enough people around, right? There's enough people around that you don't have to share. That's another part of the human problem is that humans tend to get into relationships with who they're attracted to and how they feel about their own attractions, right? So the reality of it is there's a lot of people out here who just won't, just won't get a fair shake in that regard. And so, yeah, you might have to pair up because some people just won't get a fair shake. Who was it? Just like today or yesterday, that lady, uh, I forget her name now, Shez Sade, I think it is. She was talking about this 6 figures, 6 inches, 6 foot tall, all this type of stuff. Like that's really and the way I see the world out here now, it's not even just like the fine women who are doing this shit. It's like every woman is doing this now. Everyone is doing it now. Yes, I was just about to touch on that. Right? It's a mindset. It's a mindset.
Coco, I personally think that is talk. That is 5 cent talk. Because if you watch these, you ever see check these paternity shows out? You know, where they're trying to establish paternity on the child, whether it's one father or the next father. You see many black young men, and these guys ain't 6-figure guys. Some of these guys can't even speak properly. You know what I mean? You could tell some of these guys are poorly educated. I don't know if you should say that based off of how a person presents themselves and speaks, but you see some of these guys are, you could tell they're not six-figure guys. I don't know. Maybe they are. They might be. But these chicks jumping in bed with these dudes every 5 seconds. You know what I mean? So there needs to be some, like I say, some consistency, what people profess with their mouths and what they actually do. And I'm, like I say, man, catch these same women on a Friday night who talking this 6-figure nonsense. Catch them on a Friday night when they're lonely again and by themselves again, and watch who they crutching down with. It's all talk. It's internet babble.
No, actually, D Web mentioned this on Twitter a few days or a week or so ago, right? That maybe a week ago, that if you peep what's going on, and I've been noticing it a little bit too. A lot of these folks, a lot of women in particular, aren't really pushing to have families and all that kind of stuff. Now they're opting for dogs and cats and all kind of shit. Like it's a strange thing happening. So what I'm trying to say is, surprisingly, there's a lot of people, women, men. There's a lot of people who are out here who are single from bad-mindedness and all that kind of stuff. Like there's folks who are happily home on a Friday night by themselves, as opposed, you know what I'm saying? Because they're not meeting their ideal person, the person who fits that 6 feet tall, 6-figure, blah 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 blah, or whatever it is. Because you mentioned like the hood dudes. Sometimes the hood dudes they have those things, but in a different type of way, right? They have respect in the hood or whatever it is, and folks, choose up on them. You know what I mean? But whatever it is, it's the equivalent of that 6 foot tall, six figures, 6 inches, all that shit, 6-pack, and all that stuff. Like a lot of these folks are really destroying like the framework of how relationships supposed to go down and all that. But you know what? I'm kind of babbling. Does anyone want to add any last thoughts?
I would say this, matter of fact, because we also have to remember that wealth is relative. And kind of like wealth is not just monetary, but wealth is also relative. So that like in America, I'm not wealthy, or even, I know I never listened to this guy, but I was thinking about the term he used when he says high value man or something like that. Right. And so in New York City, depending on where you go, I'm probably not going to be the high value man. Right. But when I was abroad, yeah, technically I was, in the sense that, especially what my spending was, because like me and my son would just eat at restaurants like every day. Which I guess in retrospect is the same price as eating at restaurants here in America. So it's just a lot of fucking money. But it's a bigger flex in Africa than it is in America, right? So yeah, I think in general, like, yeah, people are seeking that relative wealth. And so even when we talk about the guy in the hood, now obviously most human beings just like sex generally, so if a man can, pleasure a woman, he can suit that role for her, is she going to be happy with him if he's not providing for the family? Probably not. But that's probably where she would say, well, at least he provides, me sexual gratification, right? Because that's another human need that we have. The other part of it, though, when we talk about wealth, is like, relatively speaking, like, if you're a gangbanger in the hood, among the amount of men that a woman can have, right, you are actually wealthy. One of the tricks that that thugs use, for instance, to recruit younger thugs is like children. Like, you get a 13-year-old boy and you tell him, go to the store for me, right? Buy me a soda. And so you give the boy $100 bill, and the boy comes back with a soda that's $1 and $99 in change, and you tell the boy to keep the change, right? Now, that kind of a flex is like, hey, that's a lot of wealth. And, like, generally speaking, even today, if I were to ask somebody to buy me a soda for $1 and then give them $99 for delivery, right? That's a big ass flex. Like, even if I were to give like a $10 tip to, like a food delivery service, that's a big tip, right? Generally speaking, I don't know, maybe not to you guys, but for me, it's like, what the fuck? I don't do that, right? That said, yeah, like a guy who can do that is probably well-to-do, and he is desirable on an economic sense, particularly for women who, like, actually don't have things going on for them, and that's one of the things that we have to factor in when we're discussing, because a lot of us want to talk about pre-colonial Africa, I guess, right? But, like, when we talk about post-colonial Africa, we have to realize that the economies of Africa were destroyed. So you're not going to get a post-colonial economy, right? Sure, if you had you're not going to get a pre-colonial economy. So sure, if you had a pre-colonial economy, you could have, like, you can have different sort of, systems in place. And granted, again, men with wealth in a lot of African economies, some of them you could consider post-colonial, some of you consider pre-colonial. A lot of the times, men with wealth still had more women, had more women or got the women, and the men without wealth, the men without land, the men without cows didn't. If the dowry costs 30, like, I remember one woman I was flirting with, her dowry was, I don't know, 1,000 cows or some shit, right? Which each cow was $1,000. No, I hope it wasn't 1,000 cows, but it was like, yeah, it was pretty damn expensive. And I mean, I heard foreigners had to pay less, but, like, that was the going rate for her, because her father was a well-respected man, and he would accept nothing less than 1,000 cows or 300 cows or whatever it was, right? Which converted into dollars was a significant price for a woman. So it's to say that, yeah, wealth was always, and, like, you giving away your wealth to the woman's parent, right, was you essentially saying, hey, I could afford this shit. You know what I mean? Saying that I have wealth. So it's not a real, it's like me saying, I just want to have enough money so that a woman can respect me for my personality. It's the same as if I were, in this country, this East African country, 400 years ago, and I said, I just want to have enough cows for, whatever, to love me for my personality. You know what I mean? It's just the reality that women and men have to survive in this world. And if you are not paying attention, right? If you're not paying attention to the need for humans to survive, right? You're actually going to most likely have a bad and strained relationship, you know? And I'm not saying it doesn't work, but I could say, for instance, yeah, I've had some struggle of, you know, in the past. And yeah, it's not good for you. You will, as a man, end up getting, you know, told all sorts of things, right? Because you're a struggling lover. And I want people to like really pay attention to what I'm saying instead of, you know, how some people may look at it in sort of a like just an immature way and say, well, what about if pre-colonial Africa, or what about if and this is a Victorian or something, you know, what we have to do, or you know, like reducing it to tricking and all that. I want people to think outside of the box, but also think about how realistically there is a real economic need that humans have, and that if we do not meet these economic needs, right, humans cannot just live off of goodwill. You know, we need to develop wealth, and one of the things about relationships in general is that they've always been political, and to be political is to be economical. So I really want people to, you know, go past the, well, is this prostitution, is this like, you know, I don't want people to 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 like fall for the, you know, the you know, the I guess the Christian mindset of, oh well, I don't blah blah blah. I want people to really recognize that actually, yes, human beings are economic beings. We do have economic needs, and that is an important factor for people to form relationships, you know, whether or not they're economically beneficial. Yeah.
I get the idea of everyone has human need, everyone has an economic need. That is a fact, you know. And if you want some level of companionship, and in a traditional sense, you know, and taking care of women and things like that, there's an economic need that needs to be met. However, that need can't necessarily be, well, would be perceived as this idea of conspicuous spending money. I just need this $5,000 Prada bag. I just need these pair of shades. I just need to have this $200,000 car. That there's a difference between me meeting your need of travel and me meeting your need of what is uh spending
Survival.
way above the tip, way above survival. I think that there's a difference. If a woman want to just take the money that I trying to invest and do something bigger, I don't want to spend it to impress her friends. Then we'll have a issue with our relation in terms of relationships, because I'm just spending money to show off the people who I don't care about, who I don't care for in the first place, just to satiate the woman I sleeping in the bed with. Nah, man. But maybe that's third world thinking. But I'm not gonna do it. I'm not willing to do it. I'm not willing to do it. You know, and
Well, I could say,
rele- if that relegates me to some third world women, or women, you know, and that's the only women I can occupy. That's just what it is. Because I am not willing to pay exorbitant costs amounts of money just to impress people who I really don't give a shit about. You know what I mean?
no,
If my woman can't handle or take that, then she can go cook some soup. You know what I mean?
no, I agree with you. In fact, a lot of times when you're talking with a woman, you know, you have to assess like where is she on the materialism and whatever, you know, dichotomy, if you will. Like, is she a materialist person? You know, what does she really want, or is she like entrepreneurial, for instance? So one of the articles I want to read, because somebody didn't believe me that in Tanzania was like heavy on the transactional sex, like, and believe me, I was actually initially disturbed. You know, initially, you guys remember I was trying to leave the country because I was like, the fuck is wrong with this? Like, this is weird. But as I, you know, as I stuck around, I was, you know, I realized that even in this article, where because some brother sent me an article like, oh yeah, you wasn't capping, you know, Because he thought I was just tricking, and I'm like, no, dude, this is what they do. This is like what they're doing in this country. It's weird, right? And I was outraged at the time. But even in this article, which I didn't read completely, but I skimmed through, they say that a lot of the women do this for entrepreneurial reasons, because you have to. One of the things that we don't really get is that you're in this capitalist economy. Okay, I don't want to use the capitalist economy, but you're just in the real world. In the real world, you need money to make money. Okay, you need money to make money, but you are not born with money. I mean, few of us are born with money. Some of us are, of course, right? But few of us are born with money. That said, how do you get money? One of these women that I'm talking to, right? Her family history is that like her mother died when she was young, and then her father just kind of dipped, and then she was raised by her grandparents, and then she's been independent from 16, which is kind of common among Black women. If you've heard enough Black women, you've heard that quite a bit. But like where is she supposed to get capital for doing business? Now she does do business. She tries. She sells hats. She sells this. She sells that. But a lot of it again is that you have to get capital, right? So how do you get capital, right? And unfortunately, it comes to that people will use you. Whether they're using you for work, for labor, like, oh, build this house for me, whether they're using you for cleaning their house, or whether they're using you like, hey, you know what, I could give you more money for just, or like that's the real world. The real world is that people will compensate you for your labor, for your body. Now, a lot of us see it more dignified for you to build a house, although you're going to get paid much less. A lot of us see it more dignified for you to scan items at a store. A lot of us see it more dignified for you to pour beer. Sure, right? But a lot of people just end up like we are. It's kind of like the advice that Du Bois's aunt told him, which was, you can't, like, if you have not bore the lash, right, you can't judge people for how they act out of their enslavement. Now, I'm not saying that people in Africa are enslaved. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that if you do not bear the lash, right, then what do you on your high horse for? Like I'm traveling in Africa, right, on just a bank account. Like, not even like a passive income or anything, just on raw fucking money. And I'm supposed to hold my nose up at somebody who's like, oh, I can't even, like, I just need to eat today. And I mean, of course, there are people who, there was like, I know one woman who I just like I kind of like tried to block her initially because I was like, she was just materialistic, and it's like, yeah, you just stay away from people who are just looking for materialism, but you can't really pull your nose up because, all the things that she want materially, I can get tomorrow, but again, I think it's for us to not hold our noses up at people in poor conditions, because one thing I can say is at least they're not killing people. Because one thing, like, for instance, in the hood, people in poor conditions, they end up killing each other. So I say at least you're not like, if you're giving your body for money, like, okay, what I'm saying? Like, a lot of you're not, and I mean, these are not even the worst people. Like, there were people who were like streetwalkers. They were like, I don't even give a shit. They just gave up on life. Like women who are just going around, like for really cheap. You know what I mean? Like really cheap, like disgustingly cheap. And and the thing is that we see this all the time. One time I was in Jamaica, and I saw I saw that in Jamaica, that you could see that here in Black America. You can see it here in White America. It's a prevalent thing. So there is that street walking, there is that prostitution, there is that, and then there's people who say, hey, look, I want to, like, I need capital to either feed my kid, I need capital to, just, whatever. and like I need capital to start my to recover my business, those sort of things. And like it's for us to say, you know, that women have these real needs. And I mean, sure, you could always just hit and quit, you know, smash and dash. You could always just, you know, have sex and just say, all right, well, you do you find a way to survive, but I ain't giving you a damn dime. You can do that, right? But I mean, the question becomes: is that the moral thing to do in that sort of a situation?
Before I introduce the new panelists, I want to ask this question that Nama X is asking because it's a good one. Um, these Mexican dudes who's not, you know, rolling in dough, right? These laborer guys, they are sharing a one bedroom with 5 other couples, right? Their women don't divest from them. So why is it that we always talk about you have to have, you know, so X amount of resources, etc., right, to keep our women around us, but this little Mexican dude who's, I mean, let's be real, the Mexican dude is like a laughing stock type of dude, and his women for the most part stays with him. So what would you guys say about that?
Well, let me just jump there. What I would say is, first off, oh yeah, this joke that I said was actually, I heard it from a Indian guy. You know what I mean? So it's not like a black joke. It was an Indian guy who told the joke. As far as this Mexican guy who's whatever, again, you know, if you are providing for a woman, right? Like that's the like the thing is that you always as a man are paying. You know what I mean? Like if you're married to a woman and she's a stay-at-home mom, for instance, right? You're paying her. You know what I mean? If you're a working, you know, you're a working guy, you're not making that much money, but you're still there and providing for your family and your kids. Like women are, I'm not saying women are, I never said women are asking for much. You know, I mean, the joke was just because I had like all that money behind me. But it's not that women are asking for much, it's that women are asking for something, you know? And like that's the whole basis of the whole, you know, like, oh, take me out on a date and bring me somewhere. Like, you know, don't just bring me to your house to fuck me and tell me goodbye. You know what I mean? Like if I'm at your house, order some food for me, kind of thing. Like women, women don't like a guy who like wouldn't even pay for her fare to come over. He wouldn't buy her any food when she's there. You know, he just hits and then tells her to fucking, you know, beat it. Doesn't even leave any cab fare, right? Like that's just like that's probably some guys out there, but everybody knows that's like not the way to do it, you know. The like saying the Mexican guy is taking care of like the Mexican guy, yeah, he's not making much money, maybe not, I don't know, uh but he's like putting his money into his house. You know what I mean? It's not like he's like, go do your shit on your own. Like, oh, you lady, you go do your shit on, you like, you pay for me type shit. You know, a lot of guys now, I mean, I won't hold you, there are a lot of guys right now who are like, hey lady, why don't you pay for me? You know what I'm saying? Which is like some broke boy shit. I wouldn't do that, but like, yeah, and of course they still get the women, because you know, whatever. But again, I don't, I'm not saying it's a hard fast rule. It's just a joke that I heard from an Indian guy. It's not really um like it's not really like a discussion about black people in a sense. You know, it's just realistically there are I mean, realistically, yeah, women like wealthy, like guys who are not like women are not like, it's bad to be a homosexual. You know what I'm saying? Like it's bad to be a homosexual as a man, and it's even worse as a woman. You know what I mean? Like that's pretty much it. Like as a man, if you're messing with poor women, which I guess you could say I was doing, that's bad already. But to mess with poor women as a poor men as a woman is just like it's just weird, you know. Like you down bad if that's the case.
Wanna add your 2 cents, and then I'll introduce the new panelists.
No, I personally think in terms of Latin women, Mexican women, and things like that, in Hispanic speaking countries, Spanish speaking countries, I think that the difference is the church, the Catholic Church has really done a number. Well, some would say has done a number in terms of conditioning the minds of people who live within that system. So the Catholic Church are heavy on certain things. They're heavy on family. They're heavy against abortion. They're heavy in things like that. And in the minds of women, who are more or less drawn towards the religion, I think that's the difference. That's the difference. That's what kinds of binds them within that structure of being married to and sticking with a man in poor conditions or poor situations. She has a faith to hold on to in terms of these kinds of scenarios. And I think that within our communities, you have the Protestant churches. So the Protestant churches is based off of materialism or whatever the pastor says, and it's. I think that uh, in these kinds of areas, our condition is not as extreme as really in the Catholic countries, and also when a Mexican woman and a Mexican man decides to come to the North to work and things like that, they have that immigrant experience and immigrant background that is really a part of their experience as well. So their ideas of life and living is based off of what they would experience and where they was coming from. So they try to bring that tradition with them in the so-called first world. So it's like I'm gonna stick with this guy through thick and thin. This is my life. I already. A lot of women say I already didn't dig my grave already. So they don't look at these ideas of hypergamy and marrying up and doing all these. They decide to stay within the confines of their cultural traditions and format, even if it may be wrong in some instances. You know what I mean? But Poppy gonna have his mommy. They gonna be in the hood together, eating tacos and doing their thing until Poppy is able to find a better contractual job and work himself out of that situation. So I just think the perspective is a little bit different and the experiences are a little bit different. Where in terms of a woman who was born and brought up in the first world, she's used to certain things. She's used to certain things, and if that man can't provide these things, there's always a million different other avenues and options to get these things for herself. So I just think that's really that's really the difference in a lot in a from my perspective and what I could see in a lot of different ways, and I think it's just culture, religion, and the fact that they coming from another kind of experience and transitioning into the so-called first world countries, and within that, women will more or less stick with the man who brought them into that scenario, as opposed to venturing out and going off and trying to date strangers, even though he may have more money. So that's how I look at that. But I'll leave it there.
I actually see something in the chat I probably should address. So now I kind of didn't keep in contact with all the women I've been with, but let's say I kept in contact with 4 of them, right? Well, one of them wasn't even she wasn't even she didn't even want money. She just wanted me. I just did a traditional pickup, so that doesn't count. But of those 4, including her, none of them actually went back on Tinder. And I've paid for I guess 4 of their businesses. You know what I mean? So one of them right now is in a bar that she wanted to buy. Another one opened up a restaurant and
Only this personal biz, bro. This is personal biz, bro. You don't gotta justify your actions, bro.
I'm just saying that, because somebody said that why didn't I give them a better life? And it's like, actually, none of them sold their body again. And all of them, I actually provided a business for an independent business for each of them. What do you mean? How does brother go and say? How does I shouldn't even say brother, but how does mother go to say, "Oh, why did you give them a better life?" And it's like, no, actually, I none of them went back to another man, and all of them are waiting for me to go back to Tanzania to Give me the good. But what I'm saying is that yeah, I mean like the allegation that I haven't helped these women out or I just left them in their destitution is not true. Now there is one woman who technically I just can't fucking help out because she's like she just gave up in her life. But like I just little every once in a while I just give her money and I don't even like get anything in return, obviously. Um, but yeah, I know that there are people who might just use women, but like I wasn't necessarily doing that. Again, in that custom, you know, it's a quote from this research text. In that in that modern post-colonial culture, right? Because you can't go to an Ujama village, you can't go to, you know, whatever, right? In the modern post-colonial culture, they have the mindset, and we hear this from some Black Americans in the South, actually, but they have the mindset that a woman, like it's a disgrace for a woman to have sex and not have it, like get any money, like in that cultural paradigm. And we heard that some Black American women say the same thing, like, you know, how could you have a pussy and not be, how could you have a pussy and be broke or some shit like that. But like in that country, it's just a more universal idea. And so that's what it is. Trigger Happy asked, what is modern though? And I think that we have to, you know, we have to, like, one of the things that I noticed inside of the Black conscious circles is that, and this is kind of like why a lot of people are turned off from it, is that a lot of people just kind of ignore reality, you know? So I'm kind of going into the school of realism in the sense of what is really happening? You know, what is reality? Because people are really impacted by reality. You know, people are also really impacted by imagination, you know? And the thing is that you don't want to have a discordant imagination. You don't want to go to a victim of some sort of assault and tell them, hey, the reason why you were assaulted is because this you know, hurt people, and you should forget, you know, you shouldn't go to them and give them, because yeah, sure, it could make sense in your head, but putting that on somebody, you have to address what is really going on. So the question of what is modern, right? It's I'm talking about I fly over to another country, I land there, and I am there. And what is the ambiance there is what I have to engage in. When I go to Brownsville, when I go to Bed-Stuy, I have to engage with the ambiance there. I don't say, you know what, these are the motherfucking builders of pyramids. Sure, in some capacity, you could say these are the builders of pyramids. These are the most, you know, these are the kind people who welcomed, you know, everybody in the world. You could say that, but realistically, in reality, you have to just say, you know what, I'm actually in Brownsville. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm actually in Brownsville, and then just act accordingly. You know?
This is, and I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna let the other guests come in on Koku. This is be very quick. This is the reason why I don't like to get into big discussions with ideologues, because ideologues, they don't say sometimes the things that's very practical. You know, they speak with with they speak from the realm of idealism, and idealism is okay, you know, because we could talk about these kinds of things and go back and forth with different ideas. But when the rubber meets the road, you have to meet people where they are and grow from there. And if your people are not there, if you don't start where your people are, you're not going to necessarily reach them. This is the reason I don't like to get to these back and forth ideologues. You know, they full of idealism and they have no practical solutions to what actually is happening right now today. You know what I mean? So, like I say, sometimes, brother, you gotta let the shit fly, brother. You know what I mean? Don't get into these back and forth. It ends to nowhere. It goes to nowhere unless you could provide practical solutions in today's problem, in realistic practical solutions, brother. And if these brothers them can't see that, you just gotta keep it pushing. You know?
With that said, let's welcome in our guest who circles two options: continental African and African woman, black woman. So let's welcome in Tanzan. Tanzan, how are you this week?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Tan, You've heard everything that's been talked about here on this topic. You've seen everything in the chat. What say you to this?
Well, the first thing is that people are saying, "Oh, it's transactional. Is this is what kind of transaction are you looking for?" People say, "Well, if it's transactional, everything is paid for," but there's still a difference between a wife and a prostitute. Come on, we know that there's a difference. So it's what you're looking for. If you're looking for a temporary arrangement, then you'll get a temporary arrangement. And since they knew that people who travel there are not going to stay, so you probably experience the most seedy aspect of life. But I would say that traditionally, and even up to now, if a woman is serious about what she wants, she's not just going to do it with anyone and get paid for it. So yeah, but at the same time, desperation drives people to do, things they would not otherwise do. So, since we are in a different system, a lot of, the values have to be compromised so that they can survive. And there are people who will come and take advantage of that. Yeah, this thing has been happening before this year, before recently. You go to where you can buy it for cheaper if that's the arrangement that you want. I'm more interested in the long-term arrangements when it comes to marriage practices and all that, because that goes to a more serious and deeper issue, and that's cultural, that's familial, that's going deeper into the personal aspects of someone. So yeah, so
Tanzan,
if someone is serious, sorry, I had to mute there. So if someone is serious about it, they're going to look for someone who is serious and someone who can match their values and their vision. And if you go to Africa looking for a good time, there are enough people, women who are desperate enough to give you that if you can pay for it. But if you're going to find someone to meet and be with, and build a family and relationship and all that, that takes time, because the whole marriage, even though it has been degraded to some point, it's the traditions still go on. There's still socials, the marriage dowries and all that. And dowries are not so much for the man to show, "Oh, look at me, I can have so much." It's more of gratitude to the family of the woman to say, "I appreciate what you have done." And it usually goes higher depending on how the girl's reputation and so many other things. Nowadays it includes education, but before that it was reputation, family, all of that stuff. So it's more of the art test for the man as well. The man has to be able to provide, but poverty, as we define it now, is not a reason not to find someone. I think that people are looking beyond their means. When it comes, let's say, when it comes to beauty standards, sometimes people who are average are looking for someone who is superstar, and you're supposed to find, it's not settling if you're finding someone who is like you, on the same level as you. So this obsession with finding someone better, and even those better people, they're only a minuscule number of them. Most people by definition are average. So I think it's also this, not just this capitalistic, tendency of making everything into a value system, including marriage and love, but also making it into a sort of let me get the best deal that I can. So you can do that, but it's going to be a hollow victory and a temporary one at that. So yeah.
Tan, you're being that you're from directly from the continent, from the east side. Um, uh, what is the reality on the ground when it comes to relationships where you're from? Is money a factor? Is the do we see this level of hypergamy that all of us recognize in the West? Like what is the deal there as far as this prompt is concerned?
Um, Yeah, it's certainly becoming more of a factor, but I think it's also, women are also starting to, especially in the cities with the more educated ones, they feel that, oh, I can make my own and, I can be educated and so on. But it's usually more of a, everybody pulls their own weight kind of thing. Everyone is expected to work and to bring something and do what they can, but at the end of the day it's the women who are expected to take care of the children. Can I just address the dowry question that Gastebab has said about dowry and the children?
Sure, go ahead.
um Yes, I don't disagree that dowry was for the children. I also say that before, for all that, it was also related. The amount of dowry that you'd pay was also related to, the character and reputation of the woman, and so it was both. You are paying the dowry for your future children, but you're also paying for your present wife. So yeah. Um, but in current situations, especially when people go to universities and so on, there's this new culture that has been there for a while of women just going to look for either sponsors like rich gentlemen, or easier means, and then increasingly the men are doing the same thing. So if they find someone with money, yeah, they'll be there for a while, and then afterwards they'll find someone, and then they'll I guess straighten up and then become you know and get married and then have children and go back to being regular. So yeah, there is a certain culture in, especially when it comes to the campus life or the city life, but most people still expect a certain adherence to traditional values. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask. So I'll say two things. One, I'll say, because I'm going to read this article. I never read it, but I sent it to one of the sisters I was dealing with. And anyway, and she showed me this clip and was like, "Yo, this is true," you know. And it says, Dar es Salaam, many young women who have experienced abortions were found to be active social agents, entrepreneurs who deliberately exploit their partners. And no self-respecting woman would have sex for free. Hunter argues that, blah, blah, blah. Right. So as to say that, um, as it turns out, particularly in the city I went into, that the mindset that women had was that no self-respecting woman would have sex for free. And I would connect it to the reality that travel costs in that country was expensive. You know, we're talking 10% of your income, well, 10% of your monthly income, um, in order to travel to a guy's house. Okay. So everything that you earn in a month, you would have to spend 10% of that. Basically 3 days of labor, I guess, in order to sleep with the guy. And so if the guy did not pay you, or if I did not give you any money for you spending 10% of your own money, and that's assuming that you have money, spending 10% of your own money to sleep with him, then, and like if you weren't satisfied for some reason, which is actually pretty common in that country, not around me, but just in general, right? But what I'm saying is that if that's what it were, then obviously, like it just would seem like a male's responsibility to provide the woman with something, if not more than travel costs. Provide her with travel costs, if not more than travel costs. That said, let me ask Tan. Okay, so let's say the dowry. Let's say you can't afford a woman's dowry, right? Then what? You can unmute yourself or not. Wait, can you guys hear me?
We could hear you. I don't think she could hear you right now, but go ahead on it.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. Well, I was just saying. Well, yeah, but generally it's like when we say it, like I said, if you can't afford a woman's dowry, she's looking at men who can. In certain cultures, like if you're a girl who's whose father invested in you, and you said, look, you got to go for a man who can afford this many, like, you know, your sister went for this many cows, you know, or the girl down the street went for this many cows, right? You're better than her. You're more beautiful than her. You have a better education than her. You're this. You have to go for more cows, right? And
Yeah,
so
but
now you're
nobody's taking those kinds of notes. Nobody's, you know, counting how many this person got and this person. Every negotiation is different. So
no, that's not
no,
true.
it's
No,
not
like I said, I spoke with a woman, you know, in East Africa, like, you know, like a few years ago, but I spoke with her, and yeah, she knew what the neighbors had. Like, it's the talk of the town. I mean, it's not even just that. There was I mean, in that country, there was like a king, or a neighboring country. There was a king who boasted about how like he paid like 10,000 fucking cows for like a woman or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's a big ceremony. It's a big deal, and you know, like for instance, me personally, when I married my I was a cheap ass. You know, I mean, like I totally did not pay for this woman. Obviously, like I gave her a fucking rock for a ring. You know what I mean? Like a literal rock with copper wire. like, like we got married at the motherfucking at the courthouse. You know what I'm saying? But like in a lot of African countries, you can't be that motherfucking cheap. You know what I mean? And a lot of traditional, and like you can't be that cheap with certain women. Now, I was smooth as a motherfucker back in the day, and I mean I'm still smooth. Like I said, I just got blindsided by how women like want you to pay, because in New York it's an insult to pay a woman for sex. So that like really blindsided me when, you know, I didn't, like the first woman I messed with, I didn't pay her nothing, and then she kind of ghosted me. You know, she like asked for some money, and I'm like, what the fuck I got to do with me? You know, she asked me for money like the next day, like 2 days later, and it was like, hey, you know, I need to. I'm like, what the fuck does that got to do with me? You know what I'm saying? And so she ghosted me, and then a lot of the other Tanzanian women were like, but you ain't giving nothing, like, because she spent maybe like 50,000 shillings to come see me. You know, of course I did the damn thing, but I didn't give her nothing. You know, and then I even bragged about it. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, you know, she kind of ghosted me, and then I spoke with a couple of people, and they were like, "Wait, you didn't even give her like you didn't give her nothing." And a lot of it was kind of like, "Yo, dude, that's not how we do that, and that's not how we do this in this country." You know, and like, you know, and I'm not saying that, and I mean there are a lot of Americans, they would like, some Americans are like that, where they're just like, I'm not giving you shit because that's not like, you know, I'm not a trick or nothing. You know what I mean? But like it's just not something that's done in that country. You get what I'm saying? Now we can say, well, that's because of colonization. We can say it's because of, yeah, obviously. But you know, notwithstanding that, it's like, you know, like I can't, like I'm not gonna dress in all red, you know what I'm saying? When I go to bed style, like I'm not gonna do that. You know
Well,
what I'm saying?
wait a minute on it. Wait a minute on it. Let's slow this conversation down a little bit. Let's just a little bit. So you say when you was in Africa, a woman expect you to pay or pay for whatever arrangement y'all have. But in the Western country, in New York, a woman don't have that same kind of expectation.
Not direct payment. You can't
Not
directly pay a
direct,
woman. You
because
can't
I'm thinking, who pays for dinner? You know what I'm saying?
exactly.
She get a
You
free
have
meal.
to pay
She get a free
indirectly.
meal.
Yeah, you have to pay indirectly, but in that country, it's like direct. And again, and I think that's the misconception people have, is that I'm actually dating these women. You know, I'm dating these women, but instead of the indirect payment, I just give them direct payment. You know what I mean? So it's not like I'm paying for sex, um, in as much as like these are women who like they're not necessarily sleeping with any rando, um, or maybe they, I don't know, but they're not necessarily sleeping with any rando as much as, well, at least from my perspective, they're like just good women trying to, like trying to find a guy, like trying to find a boyfriend, but not trying to just get, you know, just not trying to get like a lot of, I'll tell you, like a lot of women don't just want to sleep with random guys, um, especially understanding that a lot of guys are not going to like make sure they get the big O. You know what I mean? Like a lot of women, even in that country, and I think especially in that country, honestly. But like I know a lot of women here in America who are like, I can't like a lot of these guys are not gonna like they're gonna just, one and done, fall asleep, come in 2 seconds, you know what I mean? And just like one rounders, right? A lot of women expect that and they're just like, I don't even want to risk that. And so in like in Tanzania, it's a little different in the sense that they would expect, well, look, if a guy's going to do that dumb shit, at least let me get money. Or if he's gonna ghost me after, at least I have something, you know? Like if a guy's gonna hit me, whatever, and then just like ghost me afterward, at least I have some money. I think it's I don't think I think it sounds like, oh man, you just went for some prostitutes, and it's like, like you didn't try to have any relationship whatsoever. And it's like, no, I was trying to have relationships, but the relationships required kind of like even in the West, like a relationship requires, like, it doesn't require you to buy dinner because a long time I didn't date, like I didn't buy women shit, right? But it's better if you are generous. You know what I mean? Than if you are stingy. I mean, I used to be pretty stingy, and I was really stingy even going into Tanzania. But I realized like there's no reason to be that stingy, And a lot of my life, a lot of like a reason why I even have any money is because I've been like pretty stingy going through life.
All right. Let's go to Shoot a Breeze topic number 2. I want to shout out everyone in the chat, everyone who came in, like Lero, and others that came in. Gas him up is lively in the chat. Trigger Happy, Nama X. You guys check out the chat when you listen to the playback of the show as well. Shoot a Breeze topic number 2.